Imagine giving an AI a simple instruction: pick up the cup. For us, that's almost nothing. We see the cup. We understand where our hand needs to go. We know how hard to grip it. We know what happens if the table is slippery. Our brains do all of that without us even thinking about it. But for a machine, none of this is simple. So here's the strange part. AI has spent years learning how to understand words, images, code, and even complex problems. But now something much more important is happening. AI is beginning to learn how to understand the physical world. And that raises a question we haven't really had to ask before. What happens when artificial intelligence can not only think about the world, but act inside it? For most of the AI revolution, artificial intelligence has been trapped behind a screen. You type something, AI responds. You give it an image, it describes it. You give it code, it writes software. But the physical world is different. A computer can make a mistake and try again. A robot can drop something. It can crash. It has to understand gravity, distance, friction, timing, balance, and all the tiny imperfections that make the real world so difficult. That's why building a useful robot has never been as simple as putting an AI model inside a machine. The robot needs a new kind of intelligence. It needs to see, understand, plan, move, and then learn from what happened. This is where one of the most important ideas in robotics is emerging. Physical AI, instead of AI really producing words or images, physical AI produces actions in the real world. And we're now seeing foundation models being built specifically for this. NVIDIA's Isaac GR platform, for example, is designed around foundation models for humanoid robots. Its newer models are built around vision, language, and action, allowing robots to connect what they see with instructions in physical movement. Think about what that means. A traditional robot might be programmed: if the object is here, move your arm like this. But a more general AI system can begin with something much closer to: here's what I see, here's what you asked me to do. Now I need to figure out how to do it. That's a fundamentally different idea. The robot isn't just following one script. It's beginning to learn a relationship between what it sees, what you mean, and what it should do. And there's another piece that makes this even more interesting. Robots don't have to learn everything in the real world. They can learn inside simulated worlds first. Millions of attempts, different environments, different objects, different mistakes, different movements. It's almost like giving a robot an enormous virtual playground and letting it practice before entering the real one. Researchers are also pushing this idea further, building systems that allow robots to plan a step, execute it, observe what happened, and then adapt. See, decide, act, check, learn. That sounds simple, but it's one of the missing pieces between a robot that can perform a demonstration and a robot that can actually function in an unpredictable world. Because the real world doesn't follow a script. A box isn't always where you expect it to be. A person might suddenly walk in front of you. The object you're trying to pick up might be heavier than expected. The floor might be wet. The light might change. A truly useful robot has to deal with all of it, and something remarkable happening outside the laboratory too. Humanoid robots are beginning to move from demonstrations toward actual commercial and industrial environments. In the first half of 2026, global humanoid robot shipments reached thousands of units, with Chinese manufacturers making up the overwhelming majority of shipments. And many of these machines are being developed for industrial and commercial applications rather than simply being research demonstrations. That's important, because the story is no longer just look at this robot walking. The more interesting story is, can this machine actually do useful work? In a factory, in a warehouse, in a laboratory, eventually, perhaps, in places built for humans. And this is where the future gets difficult to predict. If physical AI keeps improving, robots may not need to be designed for one specific task forever. Instead of building one machine that only welds, another that only sorts, and another that only carries, we could eventually have general-purpose machines that learn new tasks from instructions, demonstrations, and experience. Imagine walking into a room and saying, "Clean this up." The robot looks around. It understands what belongs where. It moves the objects. It notices something unexpected. And it changes its plan. That sounds like science fiction. Today, we're nowhere near having robots that can reliably handle everything a human can. They still struggle with dexterity, reliability, generalization, reasoning, safety, cost, and the sheer unpredictability of everyday environments. And that's exactly why this moment matters. We're not looking at the arrival of human-level robots. We're looking at the early construction of the technology that could eventually make them possible. Because the biggest challenge in robotics was never simply making a machine walk. It was teaching a machine what the world means. For decades, robots lived in carefully controlled environments, perfectly positioned objects, predictable movements, controlled lighting, repeat the same task thousands of times. But humans don't live like that. Our world is messy, and intelligence has always had to operate inside that mess. That's why physical AI arrived. I could become one of the most important chapters in the AI story. Because once intelligence can move beyond the screen, the boundary between software and the physical world starts to disappear. Your AI assistant could eventually have a body. Your factory could have workers that don't need to be explicitly programmed for every movement. Scientists could have robotic assistants that physically perform experiments. Homes could contain machines that understand their environment instead of simply responding to buttons. And suddenly, the question isn't, can AI think? It's, what can intelligence do when it has hands? That may be the real significance of humanoid robots. Not that they look like us, not that they can walk like us, but that the physical world was designed around human bodies. Stairs, doors, tools, factories, cars, kitchens. And if machines can learn to operate inside that same world, we may not need to rebuild the world for machines. The machines could learn to live in ours. And maybe that's the most interesting shift of all. For years, we imagined artificial intelligence as something that would live inside computers. A voice, a chatbot, a model, a piece of software. But intelligence doesn't have to stay on a screen. It can see the world. It can learn from the world. And one day, it may be able to change the world with its own hands. The question isn't whether that future is guaranteed. It isn't. The question is whether we are watching the beginning of the moment when intelligence finally crosses the boundary between understanding the world and physically participating in it. Because when AI learns to move, we may discover that the biggest transformation isn't what machines can do. It's how much of the human world was built around the assumption that only humans could do it.